Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the VectoScalar Tech Talk show. In this show, we bring amazing guests and speakers to talk about the different aspects of technology and how things are building up in India. And in the same series, today we are going to cover an amazing topic with an amazing guest. And the topic is how to develop digital public infrastructure of India. And for that, we have our guest speaker, Mr. Sunil David, to share with that. Welcome, Sunil, to our VectoScalar Tech Talk show.
Thank you, Vikas, for inviting me for the show. Thank you.
Thanks again. And for the benefit of understanding of audience, let me give you a background of Sunil so that you understand his breadth of and depth of his work that he has done in the industry for so many years. And also, in addition to that, this is our 50th episode of VectoScalar Tech Talk. It's been close to 1 year since we have been running this show. So this is another milestone for our own VectoScalar Tech Talk. So let me give you a brief introduction about Sunil David. Sunil David is an independent digital consultant with 28 plus years of experience in the IT and telecom industry. He currently is empaneled as an independent consultant in the manufacturing and process control practice area with Frost and Sullivan, India, where he does digital readiness assessment for manufacturers. He also consults a technology solution firm called Digital Blanket, which provides AI-enabled solution in the area around ESG and sustainability. Sunil helps them in their go-to-market access, branding, and also building the right partner ecosystem for their business growth. Sunil is also a mentor to T-Hub, India's largest startup incubator. Sunil's last corporate stint was with AT&T, where he spent almost 20 years. In his last stint with AT&T, he was the regional director of IoT India and ASEAN. He has had extensive experience in business strategy, sales, business development, and alliance and partnership building. He is a very frequent speaker at industry forums on topics related to IoT, AI, 5G, digital transformation, metaverse, future of work, cybersecurity, etc. He is affiliated with number of industry bodies like CII, NASSCOM, IET, IECC, etc., while working on number of national initiative around digital skilling of women, SME digital transformation, digital technology awareness and advocacy, startup and corporate connect, etc. Sunil, it took me a while, and I think this is what we call the synopsis of your experience. So probably our audience would like to hear from you, like how you started and what has been this journey of more than 28 years. So how it started, Sunil?
Yeah, sure, Vikas. So I started my career way back in 1994, even before the internet was available in India.
And I
So
think for most of the software engineers, they were not born at that time.
I
That
don't
might
think
be
so.
attending
Yeah.
with Vikas.
So 94 is when actually that was a very significant year because that was the year in which the national telecom policy was announced, and government came up with some guidelines which would allow private participation in the telecom industry. And it was only in 1996 that we started to see private players participating in the telecom industry. And you know how it has been ever since that has happened. We've seen tremendous growth in the telecom industry. So I started my company in a very small company called Cygnus way back in 94. I used to install what is called statistical multiplexers, which are used to connect mainframe computers to terminals. And After that, I worked in a small networking company selling networking products. And 1996 to 2000, I worked in a satellite communications provider company. So a company called Telstra, which had a joint venture with it's called VSNL at the time, Videsh Sanchar Nigam Limited. And we used to provide VSATs, and I had the experience of actually going to the remotest parts of India and installing all these chuts, these VSATs, these dish
Okay.
antennas connecting to satellite to enable communication. And those are the days when your speed used to be not in gigabits per second or megabits per second. It used to be in the kilobits per second, 4.8, 9.6. I don't know
We
how
used to
the
have those
application was.
dialers. I remember as a user, we used to have those dialers.
And you'll never forget the hissing sound, right? When you're
Yeah.
dialing using the modem, that hissing sound which comes to allow you to
Yes.
connect, right? So those are the days, and when we had low-speed networks and all. And then 2001 is when I joined AT&T. AT&T is the US-based telecom provider. They came to India much before I joined them, but I was responsible for selling AT&T services to large Indian companies who wanted to have links from India to the US. And then I progressed over a 14-year period when I was in AT&T. My first stint, I became the regional head for South, had a small team positioning AT&T products and services to our enterprise customers. Then joined Telstra, had a second stint with Telstra, very short 1-year period, head of sales for India. And then 2017 March, I came back to AT&T responsible for the IoT business. So heading IoT business for India and ASEAN. And that 5 years that I worked with AT&T from 2017 March to 2022 April really gave me a lot of wonderful exposure in the industry. And because AT&T didn't have too many people to talk about IoT and very few people, gave me an opportunity to speak at different forums about what AT&T could do in IoT space. And that's when I started to engage with industry bodies like CII and NASSCOM on a number of initiatives. Left AT&T in April 2022, and since then have been an independent digital technology consultant. Like what you mentioned, Vikas, so I'm empaneled with Frost and Sullivan. On their behalf, I do digital readiness assessments for manufacturers. I'm also helping a Bangalore-based company called Digital Blanket, which provides good AI-based solutions for companies needing to optimize the energy usage, given that sustainability, ESG is a huge focus for companies. So we built a very good stack to optimize energy. And what I really like about what I'm doing today is to engage with the startup ecosystem. So I'm engaging with a few very interesting and innovative startups who are part of T-Hub, one of India's largest startup incubator. I'm helping them in validating their business ideas, mentoring some of them. So I'm really, I mean, I can't ask for a better work that I'm doing right now, because I'm doing it because I really love doing what I'm doing right now in terms of talking about my knowledge and experiences, digital transformation advocacy, engaging with the startups, and then training women, especially. There's a big initiative from NASCOM. I'll talk about it later, but
Sure.
uh, I'm just very excited in all what I'm doing at this point in time, because
So we can assure our viewers that we have got the best person to talk about the digital public infrastructure of India, especially coming from the corporate background as well. So having the
yeah.
both side understanding of the things, that how things are working. But before again diving into that conversation, uh, be, before the show, as we were having just the discussion, if you would not have been a technology consultant, you would have been something else, and from where you got your name as well. So would you like to talk about that quickly?
Yes, Vikas. So I was born in 1972. I'm giving away my age. Okay. 1972 is when I was born, and the great Sunil Gavaskar made his debut. I don't think I need to introduce who Sunil Gavaskar is, one of the greatest
Yes.
cricketers India has ever produced. Sunil Gavaskar made his debut in March 1971 in West Indies, and my dad was a keen follower of cricket. And because Gavaskar did so well in that first series, 1971, scored 774 runs in 4 tests, that my dad named me after the great Sunil Gavaskar. So, and then I've always been a very passionate follower of cricket, and I was a big fan of Sunil Gavaskar. I had the opportunity to meet him only once, 1987 in Mumbai. But of course, whenever he used to play in Hyderabad, I used to go and attend and see him play. But I've been a big cricket buff, and I would have probably continued to play cricket. I had the situation where my dad died when I was just 13 years old, and that's when I had to decide not to pursue my interest in cricket. And then I took up a course. I started, working towards building my career. Did my course in electronics and communication engineering. Did my MBA from Symbiosis, and thereafter I progressed, because so I would have probably been a cricketer had I not taken up this particular line, because
Yeah, but seeing your career, I think the platform would have been different, but you are making centuries in every aspect.
I hope so. I hope so.
Yeah,
It is more than the century. It is the impact that you can create is what is important.
yeah,
Sometimes even a 50 or a 60 is better than a century, as long as it is going to help the team win the match.
yeah. That is, I think, the key attribute that is that we can talk about the digital public infrastructure of India. So, coming to the first question, India has a target to get to a 1 trillion digital economy in the next few years. So, what are the key drivers that will help India achieve this quite a big target?
Yes, Vikas. So, see, as a country, we are at about 3.5 trillion economy. We are the fifth largest economy in the world, and we have to get. We have a target of hitting 5 trillion in the next couple of years. Now, if we have to get to a 5 trillion economy overall, the digital economy should be at least 20% of 5 trillion, which means that we need to hit a 1 trillion digital economy, right? Now, to get to a 1 trillion digital economy in the next couple of years, uh, I've actually written about this. I've also spoken about this. There are six important drivers, and I'm very briefly going to touch upon each of these six drivers.
Sure.
Of course, I'll talk about platforms later. But the first and foremost is that we need to improve our digital infrastructure, and there are two parts to that. One is that we have to improve our telecom infrastructure, and we have seen how over the last so many years our telecom infrastructure has improved thanks to the work done by the telecom providers. Today, as of March 2020 or as of June 2024, we have 200 million 5G subscribers, 200 million 5G subscribers. So India is one of the last to roll out 5G, but the quickest rollout happened in India. I don't think any other country had 200 million subscribers within a span of 18 months. So kudos to the telecom providers. So one is making sure that we kind of bridge the digital divide. So we need to definitely have very good telecom infrastructure, and that has to be a combination of multiple technologies. So one is, of course, a wireless communication which cellular providers are offering. Second thing is a lot of fiber is being laid, and there's a big project from the government called BharatNet, which is to take fiber to every village and town of India. So fiber. Third is there are certain pockets which cannot be addressed through fiber, and you can't lay a tower there. So you need to have satellite communication, and there's a lot of interest from the telecom providers also to provide satellite communication in rural hinterlands. So you need a combination of all these technologies working together to beef up India's digital telecom infrastructure. So that's one. Second thing is when we talk about infrastructure, we also need a lot of data centers and cloud infrastructure because there's so much of data being generated, right? We need significant amount of data centers to be able to store that data. And again, government has played a big part. 2 years back in the budget, government announced that the data center industry would get infrastructure status. And what it means is that enterprises, companies wanting to set up data centers would get concessional financing, so loans at lower rates. And today you have some of the big enterprises who are already playing in that space. For example, Adani Group has got a venture called Adani Connects. They want to set up data centers across India. Reliance Industries have a partnership with Brookfield, so they are planning to set up data centers. There's a large UK-based company called Colt. They have announced a 2 billion investment in data centers over the next 12 to 18 months. So India's data center infrastructure will just definitely grow significantly because we need these data centers. And if you just look at the large cloud providers like Amazon Web Services, Microsoft, Google Cloud, they all have the cloud nodes in India. So they're all setting up data centers in India, right? So first thing is data center, the digital infrastructure, telecom and data center. Second thing is that the second important driver is Internet of Things, IoT. And I've been IoT evangelist for so many years, continue to be one. There are billions of assets in India. I mean, you name it, machines in a factory, vehicles on the road, right? Equipment in the hospital, physical assets which are still not being connected to the internet. So there's a massive opportunity here to connect every asset to the internet and imagine the value that one can get when you're able to harness the insights that come from all the data that is going to get generated, right? So IoT, I would say we just scratched the surface. There's a huge opportunity to connect all these assets. And when you generate all this data, you obviously need you need to analyze that data. You need to apply AI to make the right decisions, to predict business outcomes, and of course, we need data centers and cloud infrastructure for that. Right. So IoT is the second driver. Third
Okay.
important thing is AI, because you need. What is the point in generating all this data, and you're not able to analyze the data and using AI to be able to get the right insights, right? To make the right decision, you need to find patterns in the data to be able to figure out, where the anomalies are. For example, in a factory, machines which are generating data, right? So AI, and I won't elaborate more on it. All of you all know how AI is really helping industries, helping countries, right? And India has emerged as a big hub for AI talent, a lot of talent that is available in India, which can be leveraged to really put to use, so that we can really make sure that as a country we become an AI first country. That's the third one. Fourth is platforms. And I'm going to talk about platforms a little later, so I'll just hold off here in terms of
Sure.
platforms, because when you look at platforms, there is digital public infrastructure, and there are also industries which are setting up platforms. The fifth important driver, Vikas, is cybersecurity. I'll talk about it when I talk about the challenges. But when you're generating so much of data, you have to secure all this data, right? And we are as a country exposed to a lot of cyber threats. We are one of the most attacked nations in the country. And so the country has to protect its assets. Companies have to protect their own assets. And individuals will also have to follow basic cyber hygiene to make sure that we don't fall into any of these cyber frauds that are so prevalent today. And the last and most important driver, Vikas, is the skilling, because when you're going to use all these digital technologies, you need people with the right level of skills to work on these technologies. And there's a lot of initiative from the government to make sure that people are skilled. Companies have their own skilling programs to skill their employees. As individuals, we should also be on a lifelong journey to constantly upskill, reskill. Because so these are the six important drivers that would really help us to propel ourselves to a 1 trillion economy. Because
Wow, wow, what a detailed answer. And I think with those kind of insight, it's already relevant that how you are the best person to talk about these things. And probably we can immediately create a white paper out of it, and everyone can use that white paper as a quick checklist that what are the key areas for digital public infrastructure development for India. These are so many things, but I have a one particular question, cross question towards the different kind of things. So which is more about that when you mentioned about skilling is
yeah.
going at the various levels. So are we focusing here about the particularly the government initiative, or particularly the private organization focus, or you are talking about in general skilling is required to get to that 5 trillion economy mark?
So because government is doing its bit in making sure that people who are coming out of colleges are having the right level of skill. Because one big challenge that we are confronted with is people who are coming out of colleges are not industry ready, and industry
Yeah.
always been complaining about this, that you have to take a person, train him for a year before they are ready to take up responsibilities, right? So while government, and in the recent budget also you would have heard how the government is talking about trying to get interns to work in 500 topmost companies in India, and they're kind of skilled. A lot of initiative from the government. There are a lot of skilling initiatives which the government have announced. But one initiative which I wanted to talk about, which Ministry of Electronics and IT, along with NASCOM Foundation, and this is an initiative that I'm involved in, so I can talk about my own experience. So
Sure.
Ministry of Electronics and IT and NASCOM Foundation are jointly working on a big initiative to skill people in digital technologies. And they built a platform called Future Skills Prime. It's an online platform where one can go and register and have access to great content around various courses, on technology courses. So if you talk about digital technology, you have IoT, you have AI, you have cloud. So a lot of great content. Boston Consultancy Group has also helped in building the content. A lot of companies have contributed content, and NASCOM Foundation and Ministry of Electronics and IT are jointly working on a big initiative to skill women leaders. And they
Okay.
run this program called Women Wizards Rule Tech, W2RT, and I've been associated with this for 4 years now. And the whole objective is we want more women to be exposed to all these digital technologies so that they become the next digital leaders of tomorrow. Because if you just see women workforce participation rate in India is still low compared to other countries. And if you look at women who are, if you just look at the tech industry, 5 million people working in the tech industry, 40% of them are women, but at entry level and mid level. We don't have too many people, too many women in the CXO level, at the leadership level. So the whole objective is to prepare women to understand digital technologies, to use them, and
Okay.
also help them in other attributes as well, so that we have a good pipeline of women digital leaders, which really helps, because we have to definitely improve our diversity quotient when it comes to leadership, right? So
Sure.
skilling, it's also at an individual level, because government may come up with all the schemes. Various enterprises have very good learning and development platforms to skill their employees. But as an individual, I must have that desire to learn, to constantly upskill, reskill, do certifications, keep myself updated, because technology is changing at a very fast pace. You know that. And if I'm not able to upskill, if I'm not going to be stay relevant, then I'm going to be definitely at a disadvantage, because
Definitely. Yes, yes. Very well explained, and we can immediately see that skilling is the probably the roots from which we can get all these different fruits that we are talking about. If we have the
absolutely.
right foundation at the right place. Now, Mr. Sunil, you talked about the digital platform which will come later. So, can you elaborate more on the digital platform infrastructure being used in India to deliver services to citizens?
Sure, Vikas. So let me first touch upon some of the big digital platforms that are provided by the government of India. Okay, and the one of the biggest platform that we are using today is Aadhaar, right, for digital identity. I don't think any other
Yeah.
country has built a platform like that to serve 1.4 billion people, right? And we all have used Aadhaar for
Yes. Yes.
validation, authentication, and all that stuff. So that's one of the biggest. I think one more platform which has really disrupted the whole financial services industry is the UPI, Unified Payments Interface, the platform that is used for payments. And because I just wanted to share some insight with you, uh,
Sure.
May, June, and July, every month, the value of the UPI transactions was 20.64 trillion, 20 rupees, 20 points. So for the last 3 months, we have crossed 20 trillion rupees transaction value. 23, 24, and this is from the authentic websites, 23, 24, 131 billion transactions on UPI. So this is one of the biggest platforms, and because this is such an important platform, because this is totally democratized financial services, and you and I have been using this. It's so easy, right? I mean, to use a
Yes.
UPI to make payments. I'll just give you an example. My own experience. Last year, I was on my way to Sikkim. I had to do a project there for part of my assignment with Frost and Sullivan, and
Okay.
I had to take a road trip from Siliguri to go to the capital city of Sikkim, and it was about a 2.5 hour drive. And as I was coming towards the border of Sikkim, where the infrastructure was not so good, I wanted to have a cup of tea, and I stopped by the wayside and I found a lady selling tea there and a small shop. And after I had my tea, I asked her, and I was very pleasantly surprised to see a UPI, a QR code there. And it just struck me, it's just amazing that even in the remotest part of India and the border of Sikkim, here was someone who was wanting to, transact using UPI. I just took my phone, paid it, and I paid for my cup of tea and went. So that shows the power of UPI. It is kind of all over the country, right? So that's number
And
two.
also,
Third,
I would like to add one thing that it's been not even 10 years old. So that's how fast the technology evolved. That our ex finance minister of India made a statement in the Sansad where that what are you imagining that all these small vendors will they use digital payment? Will they carry credit cards? That's
yeah.
how quickly the technology evolves. That within 10 years, that seems like a cakewalk. That nowadays even chief of the other countries, president and prime minister, when they come to India, they experience the power of UPI. And I think that's how it
Absolutely.
is being implemented in other countries. So whenever I talk about that, earlier we were more on taking the technology from other part of the world. Now Indian technology is being used in other countries as well. So
Oh,
great
absolutely.
example
I
of
think there's so
UPI.
much that other countries can live, because I don't think anyone can do it the kind of scale that we do, because we
Yeah.
have to build these platforms for such a huge scale, right? So I think UPI has been one of the best platforms that we have created for payments. Then who can
Yeah.
forget COVID? Because I mean, I myself was down with COVID twice, 2021 during wave two and 2022 January. And we all recollect how we were using the COVID platform to register ourselves to go to the nearest vaccination center. I don't think any other country was able to build a platform like COVID to administer vaccine, right? As one of the best platforms that we built. Other big platforms which are very, very critical to India growth is GEM, Government E-Marketplace, which is to allow MSMEs and smaller companies to sell to government entities. And it's one of the biggest marketplaces the government came up with to help, reaching out to many, many small, micro and small industries. Because Today, if you just look at the MSMEs, we have about 6.3 crore MSMEs. 95% of them are micro, and it gives a very good opportunity for small companies to have a platform like this to sell into government. That's one of the biggest platforms. FASTag, I'm sure when you're traveling on the highways, makes it much more faster for you, right? I mean, you just have a QR, an RFID reader reading your FASTag, and you just zoom through the highway, right? Save so much of
Yes.
time. But one platform that I wanted to highlight, Vikas, and that is the Unified Logistics Interface Platform, the ULIP platform that was announced 2 years back when the government came up with the PM Gati Shakti scheme. The whole objective is to see what is that can be done to improve India's logistics. Okay, because India's logistics, the cost of India's logistics is about 12 to 13% of our GDP. If you look at other countries like China, US, it is less than 8%, 9%. Now, our India's supply chain and logistics has been inefficient, continues to be that, purely because of the fact that a lot of it is unorganized, right? Now, we aspire to become a manufacturing hub, right? We want to make in India for India, we want to make for the world. Now, one thing which will inhibit India from really becoming a manufacturing hub will be our logistics cost. We really need to get the logistics cost down. And the government came up with this platform, ULIP, Unified Logistics Interface Platform, to simplify logistics, to drive more transparency. We want a lot more data to come out. And the main objective is to reduce the logistics cost, right? And improve efficiencies, right? And so here was the platform. I mean, it is not easy, because here was multiple ministries trying to collaborate, because see all of the data that exists in each of these ministries, like you look at port shipping and waterways, data is in silos. You have civil aviation, data is in one silo. You have road and transport, again data is in one silo. You have the finance ministry, and here was a platform which is trying to integrate all of this, right? So to be able to make sure there's seamless access of data. For example, in civil aviation, they have connected the air cargo community system. In the port shipping and waterways, they connected the terminal operation system. In road and transport, they connected Vahan, which is a platform which is used for people to, for applying for license and all this stuff, right?
Yes.
FASTag is part of road and transport. And then you are also connecting all the road transporters. You're connecting buyers. For example, if a company wants to ship something from one point to the other, they actually can go to ULIP, figure out which is the best mode to transport, what is the cost, all the data is available. That is one. Second most important thing is traceability. You can at your fingertips know where your consignment is, right? So, and it is tracked at a consignment level. So this is one of the biggest. So I mean, 30 systems and so many ministries connecting the road transporters, which is very unorganized, truckers, people wanting to sell, consigners, consignees, courier systems. It's one of the biggest platforms that have been built, and that has really made a huge impact. Our logistics cost we haven't reached the levels of China and US yet, but there is definitely a lot of work that is being done to make sure that we reduce that logistics cost. So I just wanted to highlight this, Vikas, ULIP. Then of course there are other platforms like Umang, which you probably use to access e-governance services. For example, if you want your PF passbook, you can just go to the Umang app and download it. And very recently, I would say about a year and a half back, government announced the Open Network for Digital Commerce, ONDC, to give a real fight to the Amazons and the Flipkarts of the world. And I was just reading a few days back. Again, the whole objective is when you create this open network for digital commerce, you want to make sure that you get a lot of the buyers and sellers on one single platform to sell, right? So last month, there were 12 million orders in July alone. 12 million orders, 40,000 orders per day. And a lot of them, which are being, the sellers are selling food and beverages, groceries, beauty products, personal care, and so on and so forth, right? So the cost for platform access is much lower. So, for example, if a seller wants to sell on Amazon or Flipkart, there's a platform fee. In ONDC, it is much, much lower, and this is operated by the government. Okay, so these are the big digital public good platforms. Very quickly, there are companies which are also setting up their own platform. For example, GSW Group, one of the largest groups in India, they also make steel. They have set up a platform to connect all the MSMEs. So if they want to get raw material, they have a platform where they can get quotes coming in from the suppliers, and they're able to transact using this platform. And like how JSW have done it, there are a lot of other Indian big conglomerates who have also built these platforms to connect to the entire supplier ecosystem, right? And we are also going to see in the future where it will be cross-industry platform, maybe an automotive industry and a telecom industry having a platform together, maybe a steel and a cement industry, right? So, example, you have marketplaces like India Mart where you can sell, construction material, right? So, platforms are here to stay, and platform will also trigger a lot of economic activity because, and thanks to seamless access to UPI, Aadhaar for identity, all of them are integrated. It makes it very safe and secure to do transactions on these kind of platforms, Vikas.
That's for sure. With the details, I think for some of the platforms I was knowing while you were explaining them, Aadhaar, UPI, Covin, which as an individual people got the interaction and know about them. For example, Fast Track, how they use the different type of toll payments. But platform like Unified Logistic, probably more of the B2B people might be knowing. So it is a good lot of information for the different people who are watching, that probably there are some new technologies, some new discussion that are happening in the B2B space or the B2G space, as we call it, business to government space, where many more technologies. So if you are a startup, if you are working in that business, it is always useful to get in touch with people like Sunil, where you can get to know that okay, these are the platform which are already worked upon by the industry and the government, so that you can take the advantage of those platforms. So Sunil, as you explained different things, so do you see intra-industry and inter-industry platforms prevalent, and how is this creating economic impact?
Yeah, so right now there's work to be done in terms of having two different industries build a kind of platform to connect to each other. Actually, a good, for example, you have automotive industry which have built their own platform to connect the automotive ecosystem. You have the transport industry, of course, and then you have the construction industry. I would say at some point in time we need some kind of a convergence between two industries coming together. And I'll give you an example, not in India, but in the US, there is a association between the telecom providers, tech providers, and the automotive manufacturers. It's called the 5G Automotive Association, 5G AA. And what they are doing is, the reason why they have built that association is to test 5G use cases for automotive companies. So many of these automotive companies are using 5G powered telematic devices in their vehicles. Many of these automotive manufacturers are using 5G networks within their factories for supply chain, for warehousing, logistics, and all that. And what they want to do is bring together all the key players. Telecom obviously is going to be important because we need very good networks. They're getting the tech players involved because you need to test use cases, see how these solutions would work, right? So I don't see a reason why we cannot have something like that in India, where we can have the telecom industry maybe working in conjunction with the auto industry, and that way we'll have very close collaboration to test new use cases, to get maybe some of these startups to come and get involved. They bring in a lot of innovation, a lot of creativity in how solutions are architected, right? So I don't see a reason why we cannot do it, because we have all the building blocks in place, right? We have the telecom infrastructure, we have great cloud, a lot of work, of course, being done to improve data centers. We have the talent, of course, to manage all this. So I don't see a reason why we cannot do it. We just have to work on. There are, of course, aspects related to regulations. Then how do you use APIs to connect? How do you make sure security is maintained? How do you make sure that data privacy is maintained? All these things would have to be addressed. But the building blocks are already there to really make sure that we have these industries collaborate on platforms, because.
Okay, thanks for answering that. Let me take one or two questions. So we have a question coming from Simple Setia, who is asking, there are a lot of frauds also happening with this digitization, mostly in rural part of the country. What measures are we taking to address these frauds?
So, because my answer to this is, as we all follow regular hygiene, right? During COVID, they used to always say, wash your hands, wear your mask, maintain social distancing. You also have to follow cyber hygiene. And what I mean by cyber hygiene is that a lot of awareness needs to be there. We need to be aware of all the threats, right? And simple things like when you look at a website and you find that there is a S missing in the website, HTTPS stands for secure. Many times people fall prey to these phishing links. They click on a link which is not secure, and then they get hooked on to a fraudulent transaction. Many scams happen when you're sending when people have remote access to you. I mean, very very common. I myself have not been a victim, but I had a situation where I got a WhatsApp message which said that you're not paid your electricity bill. We'll have to contact so and so. And when I contacted that person said, please download this remote one app. And once you download that app, they can actually get access to your phone and can do whatever they want, right? So what is very important, we must be aware of all these threats, right? You have to be very very vigilant, right? Don't fall for all this. And there are, sometimes these SMSs, these WhatsApp messages have, they have spelling errors and all that. You can make out that it is a fraudulent message, right? So don't make sure that you don't click anything in junk mail. Many times the junk mails come. Some of them are genuine mails; it's going to junk folder, but you can make out, right? So very basic hygiene to be followed. Don't click on all these phishing links. Don't fall for all these WhatsApp traps. Make sure that you have on your phone very good antivirus software. For example, I use McAfee. So every app that I download will tell me whether that app is a secure app or not, right? So, and tell me whether that website is a fraudulent website or not. So it's always good. You might pay a little more, but then you are making sure that it's always prevention is better than cure, right? So you prevent prevent yourself from actually falling into these kind of traps. So just make sure that you follow basic hygiene. Make sure that you follow that. Then you won't get into any of these issues. And many times these happen because lack of awareness and also that greed which people have. That oh, somebody sent you get these very common mails, 1 lakh, 2 lakh, hiding in some bank account. You can withdraw. All these things are very every
Yes.
almost every other day you get this, right? So just make sure that you are vigilant, and I think
Yeah.
you'll be safe.
Yeah, so probably both side it is required. As Simple asked this question, that probably the cyber security, as you already covered, that this is going to be the one of the strong foundation, one of the six foundation to achieve the digital public infrastructure. That cyber security has to be made stronger, and definitely it also include the person's knowledge. We need to build the basic hygiene, the basic common sense best practices, so that people don't fall into these praise. And when you talked about McAfee, it was good to hear, because I have previously worked in McAfee for four
Okay.
plus years. So it was good to I could connect with that word. And recently we saw that definitely it can impact the infrastructure at a bigger scale. What happened with that Microsoft update, and with the that
Yeah.
some system could not reboot due
That
to
was not
a
a cyber attack.
security check.
That was a faulty update to the Falcon sensor, which was an
Yeah,
issue. But by and large, India is the most attacked nation in the world today. Our
yeah,
country is constantly attacked from other countries. So the country has to, make sure that we beef up our infrastructure. Individuals have to do their part. Companies are doing their part to protect their data and their assets. But as
sure.
individuals, we also have to do our part to make sure that we are, following proper rules as it relates to
Yeah,
cybersecurity.
yeah.
I mean, even
So we
simple
can
things
talk.
like this, because I mean, Facebook. I mean, somebody had some time back created a duplicate profile of mine and started sending friend requests. And then I got alerts from my friend saying that, hey, we already connected. Why are you sending a request? I realized it was a duplicate request. I immediately locked my profile. So you also have to be very careful that how much of data that you're letting out. So you have to, simple, basic stuff you have to make sure that you do so that you're protecting yourself from all these cyber frauds. Very very
That
common
makes
nowadays.
sense.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thanks for answering that question, and thanks Simple for asking that question. I hope your question is answered. I'll move to the next question, which came from Amit. So Amit is asking, because you were talking about a lot of things that are happening at the national level. As an individual, can I contribute towards digital growth of India? How an individual can contribute and take part in such initiatives?
Yeah, so I think it depends on what is your area of expertise, Amit. Uh, Depending upon your area of expertise, you can figure out what is that you can contribute, right? So I don't have any background about yourself, but if I know, then I can suggest to you what you should do. But
Sure.
I think as an individual, I think you just have to, and it depends on what your interests are. But uh, the message which I want to give everybody is that, see, I'm not telling everyone to be techies. Nobody can, become technologists. But one thing is that especially when you're non-tech people who are doing roles which are completely non-tech, we must have some basic digital awareness, a little high-level understanding of all these digital technologies, because you must use these technologies to make yourself a lot more productive, right? Which will improve your efficiency. And simple example, Vikas is Microsoft Copilot, right? Even a non-techie can use a Copilot to help him improve his productivity, cut down his time to prepare a presentation, use it maybe in your preparing Word documents, right? So you have to always treat technology as a friend and see how you can use it to really improve your efficiency and your productivity. And that's what I would submit here. You see what your interests are, and then channelize that accordingly, and then you figure out how you can contribute. But I think there's enough
Yeah.
opportunity. Yeah.
Yes, and probably as you mentioned, Mr. Sunil, about the different platforms that NESCOM like platforms. So probably if Amit, you attend such events, you will get to know more things that are happening in the industry, and then you can get in touch with the right team to talk about that how you can contribute and work in that team. I think those possibilities also exist. Now, although we are running out of time, but still I wanted to ask one very important question: that what are the challenges in managing DPI and how to overcome them? Because the challenges are critical part of any large scale implementation. There must be some challenges for DPI as well.
Yeah, so I'll be very quick on this. So one, of course, which I already talked
Yeah.
about, cybersecurity challenges. We are under constant attack from other nations. So we, as a country, we have to have the right cyber defense in place to protect our nation. So that's one big challenge today, and that will continue. And we have a huge shortage of cybersecurity professionals in India. We need the demand is there, the availability of skills are very less. So we really need to have a lot more cybersecurity professionals. Second thing is data privacy and security. That's a big challenge, and that is being addressed thanks to the DPDPA Act, which the Parliament passed last year, the Digital Personal Protection Bill, which is now an act, and the rules are being notified. So there will be very clear guidelines in terms of how to make sure that your data is being protected, no misuse happens, and all this stuff, right? So third is, and very importantly, Vikas, is my concern is that as we have to build our digital public infrastructure, as we need a lot more data centers, beef up our cloud infrastructure, the need for electricity and water. We need a lot of electricity to power this. We need a lot of water for cooling of data centers, and that will have an impact on environment. So a lot of the data centers today are in the major cities, but now they want to go to the smaller cities as well. And to set up data centers, you need to figure out how you can build sustainable data centers, right? To train a chat GPT model, it costs a bomb, costs millions of dollars, huge amounts of power needed, right? So I think those who want to play in the space will have to figure out how they can build green data centers that are powered by renewable technologies, find sustainable ways by which they can cool data centers, how to optimize energy, right? So those are things that we really need to figure out to make sure that we're building, while we want sustainable business growth, let's not forget about the overall dimension of sustainability itself, because we need to sustain our planet. Climate change is a big issue.
True.
So we need to make sure that this growth is, sustainable from an environmental perspective as well, Vikas. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely these are the challenges, and I'm sure with people like you in the key position, we will be able to handle all those situation in a due time. And for the audience, you can see the LinkedIn profile of Mr. Sunil down below. So if you, and you should really connect with him, follow him, so that you are getting updates. He frequently update that the different kind of things that he is doing and the different insight on his LinkedIn profile. Remain connected and keep watching. Mr. Sunil, any last message for the audience before we close the VectoScalar Tech Talk episode for today? Any last message for the audience?
So I think my only message for the audience is that India is at the cusp of a digital revolution. We have everything in place for us to really grow our digital economy, right? So it is not just people wanting to join companies and take up tech or non-tech roles, but there are enough problems in the country to be solved. So people who also want to take up on be an entrepreneur or start a company, there are opportunities there. Of course, you need to have some very unique value proposition, a really unique product and services to be able to find differentiation. But the opportunity that exists today were not available when I started my career. So one has to really grab these opportunities and see how you can make a difference, right? And just don't just focus on career, money, and all that. Most importantly, see how is that I'm creating an impact. How is through my life how I'm able to impact many more people. I think keep that also in mind before you embark on your career journey, because that will be my message to the audience.
Thanks. Thanks. That's a powerful message, Mr. Sunil. And thanks for sharing your deep insights with our audience today. Again, thanks for your time. And till that time, I want to say bye bye to the audience and keep learning, keep growing, keep watching our VectoScalar Tech Talk and such other useful podcasts so that you can learn and grow your knowledge constantly all the time. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Mr. Sunil, last
Yeah,
time. Thank you again.
thank you, Vikas, for the opportunity. Thank you very much.